Let's go. Hey, it would help if I did the intro video and I hit the live button, but I didn't. So, yeah, we should be live now, I think. Or it's still starting. Little lag and crank them up. There we go. All right, technical difficulties. What would it be on a Chasin Tails live podcast if we didn't have technical difficulties? But I believe we're live now here. Episode 82. It's going to be a long one. I think we're going to hit all the way to 10 o'clock, and this might be episode one of, I don't know, how many you think we're going to get to a Huey? 3, 4, 5?
4 probably. Ain't no way we're getting it done in one, that's for sure.
No way. We got to get to bed. I mean, Huey's on the behind time. He's out there in Phoenix, I believe, or Arizona somewhere. So he might be all good to go, but we're going to have to get to bed before long. But I think the cool thing before we get Huey on here, that we put out that post earlier this week, kind of asking what boats people thought of when they think of Huey. And there was many different boats that people thought of. Obviously, you guys think of the Steeler. I think of it as well for our rivalry we kind of created through the years of this HRL racing. But so many prior to that people brought up, and I think that's really cool when you have that many years in the sport that people begin to talk about you and remember from different eras.
I would give Huey a shout out, help him promote the episode.
Yeah, for sure. I think he's the first one of all our guests that like just all the time on it.
3-4 posts throughout the week.
Yeah, so this one might be a big one. As soon as we get all the shares and all that stuff going, everyone, if you're watching this now, one of our smaller viewers counts right now, but share it. Let your friends know what's happening, because these don't, unless you follow us, they don't pop up automatically. So make sure people know what's going on. And I think without further ado, let's bring on Huey Newport.
Hey, there's the old fart.
Hey, there he is, popped up right there. I know. So Kyle, you probably didn't know this, but Huey's one request was that he wanted to be center stage, and we got him off to the left right now. But if I can figure this out, he's gonna be center stage on this screen.
We'll get him moved.
Huey, we kind of start off every episode about the same. Tell us how you got your start. Obviously, you've been around hydroplane racing for a long time, but how did it all start many moons ago?
Well, guys, I got a job. I was working service manager in the Chevy dealership in Georgia, and I got an opportunity to go to work for Chevrolet Motor Division, and I had to move to Miami or Fort Lauderdale, and so that was 1970, and started going to shops and the Chevy dealers and talking to everybody. And down there at that time, the hot setup was boat racing. Well, I never knew anything about boat racing, per se. And so I got talking to the guys, and a couple of the guys, hey, come on down to the race at the Marine Stadium. So once I went down there, I was hooked. But what class and what to do, see, back then, you had probably 20 super stock flat bottoms, 8 or 10 ski boats, probably 30, 40 280s, and I mean, there's no big boats other than the Unlimiteds once a year. So I got thinking about it, and got looking around and talking to people about a new flat bottom, but they're pretty expensive even in that day. So I figured, I'm just going to buy an old ski boat and start out and see what happens. So I found an old Howard flat bottom, pretty rough, but it was only $1,000 in those days. And then I asked around the Region 5, and I joined the club and found out who's available to drive it, because I wasn't going to drive it, not to start out. And a young fellow came up, he said, Huey, I like to drive the boat. I don't think he ever been in a flat bottom. And here it was Stephen David, which everybody knows Stephen, just a great guy. And also, he's a realtor. He either sold my house or bought it. I don't know what he remember, but I was going to say before we started, I did want to send condolences out to Annie Fitzgerald. She lost her husband, and they. I think they were were married for like 54 years or something.
Yeah,
And John
that's
was I met him when I was working for Mac Tools, and I worked after Chevrolet, and John and I were Mac Tool dealers, so that's when he came in, and I feel so bad for Annie and the gang. And the other thing I wanted to say before I get started, there's going to be a lot of dates and times and people, and remember, I'm no youngster, and I might forget some things, so bear with me. Well, anyways, Steve and I got an old 427, and we put it together, and here we go, our first race. And I think we finished, I'm not sure, but I think it was the second race that we came in third place, and oh boy, we were excited. And but then he went his way, and I went my way. I bought a new flat bottom by a fellow named Terry Frost out of Jacksonville, Florida. He built the boat, and he raced it, and we got running, and we had quite a bit of history. We won High Point a couple of years. We almost won the 72 Nationals, but I didn't know it, but my local, the guy that checks them for the region said you could cut valve release in your pistons. And I did, and we won the Nationals, but they tore us down, and we got valve release, and they said that was illegal.
Damn.
So for a couple of years, I raced flat bottom, and the next thing we did, we had a race in Dayton, the Nationals in 1974. Well, this is getting into my hydro days now, but with the flat bottom, we got to steal our fellow named Hank Langskamp, and he had Steel Fab Company, and he asked me at the Nationals, he said, hey, you guys really run good. He said, I'd like to sponsor you. That's okay, no problem. So we had Hank for a couple of years, and so we went to the Dayton Nationals, and before I went, me and the wife were about to break up. So I was still living at the house, so I said, I better go to the bank and get a cashier's check, and I had a little over $10,000 in my bank account, so I got a cashier's check made out to me for $10,000, and off I went to Dayton. And we got there, and all we heard, everybody was talking. This is before the race, that Ron Pellegrin, he owned a jewelry store in Louisiana, had this brand new Jones 7-liter, and it was sitting there. He couldn't get it to handle, and he wanted to sell it. He wanted $14,000. So everybody's talking, everybody's going to buy it. You know how you are in a race, especially with a deal. And this boat was beautiful. It was called the Mark I, had the engine, everything, trailer, the whole bit. So I called Hank up, my sponsor. I said, hey, Hank, would you like to get in the hydroplane? And I told him what the deal and everything. And he said, well, Huey, he said, I'll be honest with you, I'm a flat bottom guy. And, I'd just rather stick with flat bottoms. It's okay. And that was Friday. Saturday morning, he called me early. He said, I've been thinking about it. You guys have been so good with us, and we've had such fun. He said, I won't give you the full sponsorship, but I'll pay all your expenses to race the hydro. I thought, that's great. So I went up to Ron, and I said, and everybody was standing around talking, and I said, have you got any bites? He says, Huey, I've got probably 20 guys who want to buy this thing, but I haven't seen a bit of money. I said, well, Ron, I said, I don't want to disrespect you, and I like to give you what you wanted, but if you want to take a deal, I got a deal for you. And I handed him the check. He looked at the check, looked at me, looked at the boat, looked at the check. He said, sold. Unbeknownst to me, this boat would not handle. And over the next year or so, oh God, I don't know if you ever heard of Donald Stumbo, but he was a good hot driver up near Jersey someplace. He got in it, he couldn't drive it. Steve Jones was a local hydro guy. We put cinder blocks in the front cockpit to hold the front down.
My gosh.
Nobody could drive it. I mean, get up to probably about 100 miles an hour and it'd get all squirrely. So Tom Sheehy was a Delta pilot at the time, and he drove the Unlimited, the Bud Light, and he got a hold of me. He said, Huey, I hear you're having problems with that 7-liter. He said, I'd really like to get in the Limited, and how about if I have partnership with you? I said, sure. So we got everything all cleaned up, and in the meantime, a young fella named Marty Niles called me, and he got really screwed up at the 74 Nationals in his 280. So he was back in shape. He said, I don't want to drive, but he said, I like to be on your team. So fine. So we worked on the boat, got it all straightened out, painted it, everything. Called it the Irish Mist because Tom was Irish. Our first race was Raleigh, North Carolina in 75, I believe. So here we go. Tom puts it in the water. There was about 4, 5, 7 liters. And they go out, he races it. He comes back and he said, this thing ain't going to handle. He said, I see what they mean. I guess that's why you bought it cheap. Marty's sitting there. He says, so the second heat was getting ready. And Marty said, hey, I got my driving suit. You guys mind if I take it for a spin? We said, oh my God, have at it, So here they fire the 5, Marty goes out, and darn if he doesn't go out, he blows everybody away and sets the record for the Raleigh course. He came in, we said, what'd you do, Marty? Tom's all, he's kind of a little mad, and he said, there's nothing wrong with this boat. and he said, all you do when it gets squirrely, you let off on it and get back on it, it's perfect. I won't tell you what he said, but he basically said, screw you guys, Huey, you can have my partnership, you take the boat. And that's how we got into the 7-liter. So we did okay, but it wasn't a record beater. And but
So
all the time,
to take one little,
they had the Canadians had put a race on in Mexico. Or Mexico. I've never been to Mexico. And here we're in Miami. And so they said, okay, y'all bring the boat down to, where was it? Someplace in Texas, San Antonio. We all met there Thanksgiving Day. Tom Baker and Henry Knapp and Tony Rodriguez. And so they told us that we were going to meet a Mexican guy and he was going to get us through the border. So we go down the border and we're sitting there and we're sitting there and we're sitting there, and what in the heck is going on? So finally I got out of the truck and I went up to the headquarters and I said, let me speak to your leader. So they take me in there. There's this, I swear to God, this Mexican guy, he was a general. He had the uniform on and a hat and had the pistols on the table, and I'm like, oh shit, and so I said, what's the problem? He said, your guy, Tony Rodriguez, he has a Portuguese passport, and there was something with Portugal and Mexico, and I said, and then the Mexican guy from the bunch of banker guys put this on, and the Mexican guy, he took off, he couldn't do anything. So I said, listen, we want to go down to Guadalajara, then Mexico City. We want to race this thing. And I got 8 guys, I think, sitting out there. And so the general said, well, Senor Newport, if you'll promise me, if you bring the boats in, you take the boats out. That's all we care about. We want you leaving the boats in. Oh, God, thank you. So here we go, all of us, with boats and trailers. And we had, 50, 60 people. And we're trying to get to Guadalajara, and these people are going, oh, Chris, you're going maybe 40 miles an hour, and Marty and I are going crazy. So we look at the map, and Marty says, hey, if we go over the mountains, we'll beat everybody there. So we looked at everything except our gas gauge. And here we're going, and we're driving, the gas gauge is getting empty. I'm like, Marty, we're going to be out in the middle of Mexico and no gas. And he said, well, we got race gas. So we get going, and finally it's almost run out, so we dumped some race gas in it. We got to Guadalajara, and we had more trouble with that boat. Well, somehow somebody dropped a rivet in the gas tank, or that's what we found later, and we didn't even qualify. We didn't even run there at Guadalajara, but then we go to Mexico City, and we have a race there next, and same thing, it wouldn't run, and we, oh God. So finally I took off and left the guys, and here Marty got a chance to drive Jack Shaw's Olympiad boat. Jack says, hey, I'm tired of this crap. I'm going to fly home. I'm not going to drive all the way across Mexico. So Marty's sitting there on, I forget what, Monday or something, and Jack calls him. He says, Marty, don't leave, don't leave. And Marty says, well, what's the problem, Jack? He said, well, I get to the airport and they want we had special passes. And they said, you come in with a race boat, you got to go with a race boat. So Jack had to go back to the hotel, and him and Marty, Jack's brother, they drove the boat out. Meanwhile, I'm heading across Louisiana, and I stop at John Prebos's Volkswagen dealership. He says, Huey, what are you doing? I said, this piece of crap, I've had more trouble with this race boat. And he said, you want to sell it? I said, make me an offer. And I forget what it was, but I was undoing the hitch and said, here, take this thing. And that's how that got going. So that's how Marty and I got hooked up. So
That's cool.
That was up till 70.
All right, I'll pause you there, Huey. I got one question through this. Did you obviously were into being an owner at that point. Did you ever want to drive, or you just kind of like the owner role?
That's one of my questions somebody brought up, and I forgot to go, because I want to get a lot of this older stuff out of the way, because I know we're going to be doing a lot of talking about Grand Prix. So anyways, I was known, and I still am, as I'm a little wild driver. I mean, if you want to get to A to B in the car or the truck, I'll get you there. So, but I had no interest in driving. And I thought about it. So one Friday, we got down to the Marine Stadium early. And if you looked at the Marine Stadium, about halfway down the back straightaway, they had this big bandstand where they would pull it over to the bleachers on the water, and then they'd have a concert there. And this bandstand was about halfway down the backstretch. So here I go, had a helmet on. I never had a chute jacket. I wasn't, but here I go, and I'm getting it warmed up, and then I get on it. And I said, boy, this thing is fast. I said, and I'm going a couple laps, and I really think I'm hauling ass. And so I'm thinking to myself, well, I'm going to get in here, and these guys are going to want me to drive this damn thing, and I didn't really want to, because you're bouncing around. You guys have all driven. I didn't. Yep. So I go into the pits, and I pull in, and I get out of the boat, and everybody comes running out. Huey, what's the matter? I says, what do you mean? Why were you letting off all the way at the bandstand halfway down the straightaway? So that was my whole deal in driving. So that's what happened. So, but getting back, any other questions on the early days?
I think that was the only one I had. Bob, you got any?
No, I'm just enjoying listening.
I'm glad you got a chance to drive, though. I was wondering that too.
Yeah, it sounds very similar to my mom's time driving a hydroplane. That she was going so slow, about burnt the 2.5 up.
What you mean? Well, anyway, so then Marty and I I don't know how we got a good reputation, but we got a reputation if you want to race your boat and do good, call Marty or Huey. So Don Turner had a little 280, an Ed Carrollson 280 called Just Enough. And Don's called, I know how it was. Marty and I went to work for him at he had a Hatteras Marina, and I was a service manager, Marty was a mechanic. And Don had this 280, and I forget who was driving it, but he said, Don, how come you never do any good with this? He said, the motor's always screwed up or something, and we always have problems. I said, well, you want Marty or I to take it? He said, sure. So I pulled the motor out, rebuilt the motor, did some work to the motor. Marty worked on the boat. And here our first race was New Orleans, the U.S. Nationals in 1976. So we go out there and we're like, oh shit, there must have been 40 280s. And Marty and I were scratching our head. He says, maybe we bit off more than we could chew. So Marty got in a couple of heat races, and I forget where we ended up, but we got in the final, and I guess it's because it was 1976, the bicentennial or the centennial, and everybody wanted to win the U.S. Nationals. So they all come down. Here they come down for the start, 8 of them. Well, of course, everybody's early. And Marty found the hole, and here he went. He hit the first turn, it seemed like 10 seconds before the rest of them. Well, we won the U.S. Nationals. We're like, oh my God. So immediately everybody wanted Marty and Huey to drive their boat, right? So the next thing we did is Ed Carrollson called me. And to me, Ed was probably one of the finest of the top 3 boat builders. He very smart. I think he still holds some outboard boat records. But Ed said, Huey, you and Marty, you got to help me. I said, what's that? What happened? He said, well, I built a brand new 280 for Wally Adams and his wife Donna, and they can't get it running right. They said it's too heavy, it's too big, or whatever. And Wally had multi-millionaire, and he said, I want a new boat. So I told him, I said, get Marty and Huey to take your boat and try it out, get it straightened out, and if they say it's no good, I'll build you a new boat. So we went up to Winter Haven, got the boat, brought it back down. Oh, I talked to Wally, and so we took it to I built a new motor for him, and we took it to New Orleans to just a local race. And Marty got it and just blew everybody away. And like, oh my God. So I talking to, and Marty had been up to Canada. He really liked racing in Canada. So I said, Wally, they have a class in Canada. It's a 280, or it's a 360 class. It's basically a modified 350, and they run it. And you can also run it in the Grand Prix up there. They called it a Braden at the time. So
that sounds like today's E350 versus H350. It's a modified 350 up there. It's like times are repeating.
And I said, Wally, they run these classes, and I don't think they run the 360 and the 280 class together. So why don't we build I'll build a 340, roller cam and the whole bit. So here we go up to Canada. They run the 360 first. No, they ran the 280 first. Marty wins the 280 class, or the heat. Then here's the 360. Well, we had enough time. It was really neat because we could take the boat out of the water, change engines. We built a Plymouth 340, which is the same as the 280 engine. Everything was the same. Put it back in the water in 18 minutes. And Marty gets out there and he blows the 360s away. We're like, oh shit. So we won both those classes. And then they had what they call a Braden Grand Prix. And we put it out there against I think they had 1 or 2 blown boats, but back then they were mostly all injected. And we got in there, and Marty got a 3rd place. And boy, this was our grocery boat, because we got to keep all the money, but paid all the expenses. So this went on for about 4 or 5 races. Well, we won everything, and we always got a 3rd place in the Braden. Well, Wally, finally the Canadians, they got all mad, and so they put us back to back in classes, and we couldn't change and put the motor back in the water. So that was the end of that. So
That's some shit.
our next deal. Got any questions?
Were Wally and Donna happy with their boat in the end? Sounds like they should have been.
Did you speak up a little bit?
Yeah, were Wally and Donna happy with their boat in the end? It sounds like they should have been. Sounds like they did some good winning.
You're right. Anyways, so 1977, Jack Shaw has an old Stoniker 7-liter, he was running Grand Prix and they couldn't get it to run. So Marty and I took it over. I rebuilt the engine, and we were running against Larry Lauderback and the Peanut, all those hot Lauderbacks with the injected big block Chevys in them. So all we had was a 454 with 2 4s on it. We went to where was it? St. Timothy, and Marty beat he beat Larry in a heat. We were excited, and so we ran that. We weren't real competitive, but we always got a second or third. And so one day we're coming back from up north at a boat race one Sunday evening, and we had some time to kill. So Jack says, "What are we gonna do, guys?" And I said, "I don't know." And I forget who, but he said, "Why don't we put a 7-liter motor in this thing and run the U.S. Nationals, the 77 U.S. Nationals at Lake Castaic?" And Jack said, "What would it take?" I said, "Well, I'll call my buddies in Miami. We'll ship all the 7-liter parts up there. I'll throw a motor together and we'll take off." So great. We got all registered and everything. And we put the motor together, went out and tested it. Ran pretty good. And but it was kind of a bigger 7-liter. So I called my buddy Ed Carlson and told him we're coming out there. He says, "Why are you coming out here, Huey?" I said, "Well, Ed," I said, "we had nothing to do, had a couple, 3 weeks to go, and we figured we're going to run the 7-liter, the Olympiad." He said, "You mean that boat you ran for Grand Prix?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Huey," he said, "I'd love to see you guys, but you're coming out here. They got the Buccaneer, a record holder. They got that Pussycat, a New Kelson. They got a Pussycat and what other cat? I forget it was." He said, "Those guys are going to blow your doors off." I said, "Well, we got nothing else to do." So here we go. We get out there, and I forget what the situation, but we run a heat. Maybe we won second or third, but anyways, we get to the final, and here they come down the straightaway, and Marty literally blows these guys away. I mean, he goes around them like they're tied, and we won the 77 Nationals. And
oh my gosh.
Ed came up there and, "Huey, I will never doubt you again," whatever you say. So that was our 77. And then 78, 79, Wally, we talked him into buying somebody's boat, but that didn't work too good. And then he bought a new, I think a 7-liter, and they call it Mist America. And we ran that in the Grand Prix, but we didn't have a blown engine or anything. So, but that was kind of up to there. And let me see, copycat Ed Carroll's. I got my notes in front of me, so.
That's good. While you're looking at your notes, I noticed a trend there. You got a boat, and then between you and Marty Niles made it better, but you kept saying you built an engine. So was it your engines or Marty's driving or a combination of everything?
I think it was a combination of everything. But to be honest with you, even today, I'm not bragging, but we've won a hell of a lot of races, a lot of big races, and I always built a good motor. I can always remember my first blown motor, and that gets into later, but I'll tell you real quick while we're talking about it. I put it together, and I got a friend of mine to come up and make sure, because I never cranked it up. It's a blown motor, so had cast iron heads on it. So he came up Fort Lauderdale to the shop. We fired it up. It went pop, 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 pop. He says, "Shut it off." And I said, "What's the matter?" He said, "Pull the heads off, give them to me. You don't have enough valve stem clearance." So that was that. But getting back.
Were you building your own motors, or were you having someone build them back then?
I was building all my own motors.
Cool. I didn't know that.
So, yep. So, anyways, where was I?
70-something. We haven't hit 80s yet, so we're 70-something. 79.
78.
Oh, speaking of 79, don't forget that boat never won an East Coast race.
Well,
That GP79 still has not won an East Coast race. Just remember.
2 years to get you, Brandon. All right, 79, 80. We got, we're sitting there with no boat. Marty said, what are we going to do? He said, I don't know. So we found out that Jerry Waldecker had a 7-liter. And I went and looked at it. And boy, it was just beautiful. It was bright orange, and it had some clear wood decks on it and everything. And I forget who tried to drive it, but they said it would never handle. So we brought it down, and we're sitting at the shop in Hialeah, Florida, and Marty said, we need to paint this thing. I don't like the orange. I said, I don't like it either. And so what are we going to paint it? Or what are we going to call it? So a young kid come by looking at the boat. He had a can of Orange Crush in his hand. We're like, that's it. We're going to call it Orange Crush. And someone had asked me, I got that name. So here we go. We painted it. We got it running. We ran a few races. We really didn't win a whole lot, but we had the 1980 Nationals. So I built a new motor for it, and we're sitting up there in the bank, so we're getting ready to fire it up, warm it up, and Bob Bernard, who's the inspector, then a real nice guy. I love Bob. And we fired up, and what the hell is that? Marty says, Huey, you forgot to torque the rod bolts. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. So here we got a crane, and Bob came over. What are you guys doing? We're pulling the oil pan. He said, Marty said, Huey forgot to torque the rod bolts. And he's like, you're not going to check the bearings? I said, we don't have bearings. We don't have time to. I'm just going to retorque the rod bolts. And Bob said, yep. And bigger than you know what, you'll probably go out there and win the Nationals. Well, we went out there and won the 7-liter Nationals in 80. Well, then Marty kind of went off. I think he fell in love, got married, whatever. So, because he was working for me, he's a Mac tool dealer in Minnesota. And so I had a 7-liter, and the 81 Nationals, I called Mike Endries. God bless him. Mike came down, and he said, I don't think he did. Maybe we tested, but I forget. But here we go. And here come all these new Stodikers. And at the time, the Rage was a real wide tunnel. I mean, you had Mike Weiner, Jerry Waldecker had a new one, Mike Mamano, everybody. I mean, these boats were like, you know what? Everybody had a new boat. So everybody,
this one?
You guys are wasting your time.
Is that the boat?
That's it, I think.
Right?
No, that's the Olympiad, the one we.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm clicking around trying to find the right ones and bring them up as you're talking.
Yeah, we did call that. Well, we called that the Crush afterwards. But anyway.
Okay.
So here they come down for the final, right? And all these Stodikers are jumping out, and they hit Marty, or they beat Marty the first turn, and they went around the first corner, and they came off the corner, they're flying, and here Marty went flying by them down the straightaway, backstretch, and we won the 81 Nationals too. So here they all come, they're going to protest it. So Mike Weiner, God bless him, he comes over to Bob Bernard, he said, they got nitrous oxide in that boat, I want to protest it. And Bob said, you know, Mike, and all you 7-liter guys, just look at this boat. What's the difference? And they said, we don't know. The tunnel. It's got a narrow tunnel on it. All you guys got wide tunnels. And with these long straightaways at Dayton, that's why he beat you. So that was that. So we won the 81 Nationals. And I think I sold the boat. And then we get to 82. So now I want to get back racing again. So I had Stodiker build me another new boat. And I called Tommy Baker. I said, Tommy, we're going to build a new boat. You want to drive it? He said, hell yeah. So, but I said, I wanted, and this is one thing that I like to be remembered for, because everybody was running gearboxes in Grand Prix, and we ran a direct drive at 7-liter. So I said, if we could run a direct drive in 7-liter, why can't we run it in long boats? Oh, you can't do it. They'll turn RPM. You'll never do anything. And the torque will throw you all over the place. So I said, well, and I wasn't a big money guy, and I couldn't afford a gearbox and all that stuff. And it kind of scared me, a gearbox anyway. So we went direct drive. And I get a big prop from Ed Hetzel at Mercury. He said he worked with just props. So here we go, and we were testing down right behind Tommy's house. Well, just so happened that day that a local TV station was doing a series on the Baker boys. You know, Wheeler and I can't think of Eddie, and they're all killer drivers. So we went out there and put the boat in the water, first time in the water, and Tommy came back. He said, Huey, I can't hold this thing straight. I'm telling you, it's dangerous. And the guy doing the TV thing, he comes over and he said, hey guys, we got a problem. Our camera's screwed up. Can you make one more run? Tommy said, I don't really want to. And I said, well, this is you guys, you know, it's your family. And he said, well, I'll take it out one more time. I'll just take it easy. Tommy Baker taking it easy. So here he goes out, and when it hold right rudder, right, Brandon, you got to hold right rudder.
Hold right rudder, yep.
He's getting up to about 140, and he was holding right rudder hard, and he let off on it. Well, when he did, have you ever taken a stone and thrown it across a lake? Well, that was Tommy. He went out the side of the canopy, it wasn't a canopy, it was just a cockpit. He went out the side, and here he skipped across the water. And to this day, he's still hurting his back. So we sent the prop back to Hetzel. He cut it down. I got Tommy involved, and finally he said, I give up on this thing. Well, I had this boat, so Mike Endry's come on board. Mike and I tried different things, and we kept cutting the prop down, but every time we cut the prop down, the RPMs would go up. So Mike said, Huey, how about selling that boat to me? Michael, thank you. Well, he put a gearbox in it, and he went out and he ran it and got with Warren Wilhelm, and they kind of teamed up, and they did pretty good. They never won a race, but the motors stayed together. So back then, that was a plus. So that was my big deal there. So then I don't think I did anything too much. Remember, I forget. '84, I wanted to get a 7-liter again. So I bought a brand new Stoniker again. And we called, even though I didn't have a sponsorship, we called the Steeler. And Tommy ran it. Tommy gave back rudder. Our biggest problem was his brother, Wheeler. He had a 7-liter called Baker's Dozen. I'll tell you what, guys, if we ran him 40 times, he beat us 30. And but it was great racing, both the brothers. And we took it to Canada, and forget what happened, but Tommy, they took the breathalyzer. Sorry, Tommy, and he couldn't pass it. So Mike ran and won the 7-liter class, and then Mike said, "Can I run it in the Grand Prix?" And he got someone else to drive his crush boat, and Dickie Sutton wanted to run that boat, and so Mike went out and got a second place, I think, in the thing. So we had a race in Ville Marie, I think 2 weeks later. So Mike said, "Hey, why don't we put a nitrous kit on this thing? It's legal." So sure, the boat handled beautiful, great boat. So we put a nitrous kit on it, and I don't think we tested, but we went to the race, got there, and I said, "Now listen, just burp this thing, just push the button a little bit." So he did, and got second in the heat, I think, or something. He said, "Boy, that really makes a difference." So we got in the final. Here they come down the straightaway. Mike hits the nitrous button. He just pulls past everybody, got to the first turn, and all you saw was the boat stop and a big puff of smoke. So we towed the boat in and said, Mike, what happened? Huey, I'm sorry. He said, it got feeling so good, I just kept the nitrous button on. You have never seen a big block Chevrolet scattered like that. That was the end of the Steeler, and I sold it. Actually, I sold it back. I sold it to Steve David, and Steve took it and did quite well with it for several years.
So when Steve, because going back to when you first started with the flat bottoms, did Steve ever drive for you, or he just bought it from you and then ran it under his own ownership?
Well, just that one time.
Okay, gotcha.
Oh, but getting back to the Steeler, Hank called me one day, and we were still racing the 7-liter at the time. And was it Marty? Had to be. I don't know how Marty. I don't know how these guys get into boats, but anyways, Tommy. It's Tommy. I'm sorry. They were putting the first ever Fort Lauderdale Grand Prix, and it was the Miami Vice Grand Prix. And if you remember the old days, Miami Vice with Don somebody and those two stars, they came up and they promoted the race. And there was another 7-liter that ran very good, Alan Vordemeyer. Well, Alan was a big businessman in Fort Lauderdale, and so was Hank. So we got in there, run a couple heat races, and we were running good, but we figured Alan had a speed if he ever got the inside. So before I think Saturday night, or maybe Saturday night, Hank told me, he said, Huey, if I ever want to win a race, this is my home race, and I want to win, I want to beat Alan Vordemeyer, because they really built it up. They had the newspaper and TV and everything. And of course, my wife and all the girls wanted to, because Don Johnson was the local heartthrob, on TV. Here they go out. So I said, okay. I said, the only way we're going to win this race is get on the inside. And I forget who was driving Alan's boat at the time. But anyways, I said, okay, we're going to go out. We bought the strongest battery we could find. And then I set the timing up to 50 degrees. And they're like, oh my God, this thing's never going to crank. So we cranked, they fired the 5-minute gun. Tommy went out. He ran kind of warm-up lap, made it a time log. And we're watching, and the boat shuts off. We're like, oh no, it blew, something happened. Well, they fire the 5-minute gun. We see the rooster tail in the back of the boat. Tommy's fired it up. He just went down there and shut it off to get the inside lane.
No, wow.
And they come down, and Tommy beat Vordemeyer. And the whole town, everybody, Don Johnson, the girls, probably one of the neatest races. We had more fun. And Vordemeyer was really screwed, PO'd. And I will have to say this, Alan's gone now, but he's probably one of the reasons why the 7-liter class fell on its face. Because back then, we went to St. Pete. Alan comes over, and he's got Ford backing, and we had a drivers meeting, all the 7-liters. And back then, every race had a different winner, 7-liter. It was the class. And Alan Vordemeyer got all these guys talked into. He said, "Oh, Ford's going to let us all give us a Ford engine, or we can buy one cheap, and Ford's the future." And have you ever seen those little Dunkin' Ducks you put on your dashboard? They're all shaking up and down, shaking up and down. And all these guys, and I said, guys, we have the greatest class in inboard racing right now. I said, you're going to ruin it. If you let this Ford engine in, you're going to ruin it. Well, they all voted to have the Ford engine in, and you might know it. He had these Ford guys up in, I forget the name of it, the engine builder, but they built him a hell of a Ford engine. And
Was
in
it
fact,
Kinetics?
we had a Grand Prix in Toledo, and Alan with Wheeler Baker won the Grand Prix against the blown boats. And but anyways, that was the end of the 7-liter class as we know it. It was too bad. So,
For sure.
but then, of course, Marty had gone his way. He'd gone off to Texas, worked I forget what he's working, but he had a great job down there, him and Kathy, his wife. And I said, we got to do something with this 7-liter. I know we're so close, to getting in the Grand Prix. So John Stoddicker built me another motor, and another boat, and I took it down to Texas, and Marty and I rigged it out, and we did everything to it. And there was a lake out in North Texas, North Dallas. So we took it over there, and Marty went out and warmed it up, took it easy a couple of times. He said, Dad, this thing is really fast. But he said, it just feels funny, but he didn't feel too much torque on it. And John made some differences in the sponson, and I think that's all he did. But Marty said, oh, let's go out, we're going to test it one more time. So we got the chase boat, and I looked, and we always had some tools in the chase boat. And I said, where are the wire cutters? He said, we don't need wire cutters. I said, we might need some wire cutters. I don't know, but grab some. So I went to the truck, grabbed the wire cutters, put it in the boat. Marty goes out, warms up a couple times. Here he's going down the back stretch. I see the boat start to lift. I tell the guys, crank the boat up, crank the boat. He's going over. Well, they cranked it up, and here he went over. Well, back then, they had a parachute, and you had a cable bolted to the cockpit. Marty goes out of the boat, and here he's in the water, and I'm not sure if he had a chute jacket or, but he's sinking. And here's his cable. Well, God bless Huey, because we didn't have those side cutters. Marty Niles might be dead now. And I cut the cable, got him up. He went to the hospital and everything, but that boat, I don't know how deep that lake was, but we tried to find it that day and couldn't find it. And the local dive club came out Sunday, and they looked. They must have had a dozen divers. They couldn't find the boat. And I'm like, oh my God, this is my brand new boat. So finally they said, Huey, we're going to go down one more time. And this was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Well, you might know they found it. So we go dragging it across the bottom and get it up, get it on the trailer. And here I go back to Stoddicker's. He said, I guess we better do something to this thing. It didn't tear it up that bad. So he dropped the deck back. He came back with the deck, and he put a wing on the front and fixed the repairs. Well, we go off to the first boat race. We'll make a long story short. We changed Grand Prix racing as it was. This boat wasn't as fast. The waterbacks would beat us down the straightaway. But if we could stay with them to the turn, boy, around it went. And we won everything that year, just about. And we set a new record at St. Timothy. And it really made a difference. And Larry, to this day, is probably still cussing me because the first thing happened is Robert Theoret come up, he's cussing me. He says, Huey, you're making me buy a new race boat. And everybody, you had to have a Stoddicker because they turned so good. They wouldn't go down the straightaway that much, but they would turn. So, 78, we won everything in 86, excuse me. 87, Marty decides to go. Warren Wilhelm talk. Oh, come on with me, Marty. I've got the money. We can do it. We'll win everything with you driving. Okay. So off Marty goes. Well, I sat there, felt sorry for myself a little bit, and said, okay, John, build me another boat. So he built me another boat. Got in my shop, putting it together, and I really didn't have a driver. I didn't know what to do. So Michel Favreau from Quebec, Valleyfield, calls me and says, Huey, what are you doing with that boat down there? I says, I don't know. He said, well, why don't you put me a motor in it and I'll buy it from you. I got Bruno Brossois to drive it. And he said, I think we can do some good with it. I said, okay. So I sold it to him, and off they go. And I'm not sure if they won a race or not, but they're very competitive. Well, at St. Timothy that year, that's the only place you could set a record. I think our record was 118 at the time, a mile and 2/3. And Bruno went out and won a heat, and he set a new record of 121. And he got in. Of course, all the French people came around. They're all patting him on the back, and he came over to me, and he had tears in his eyes. He just looked at me and says, "Huey, am I as good as Marty Niles?" And I said, "Bruno, in this day, you are as good, if not better. You are the man." And that made my day too. So that was what, 80 or 87. So in 1988, I made the stupid mistake of running for inboard VP. I'm like, yeah, I learned real quick. But anyways, I guess my one contribution is putting on the 88 Nationals in Valleyfield. And it went off really well, lots of boats and all that. Well, of course, me being around boats, I'm like, oh, yeah, I got to have a new boat. So 89, John, yes, Huey, what do you want? I need another. So he said, okay, build me another boat. And this time, I bought us some property. I built me a big 4,000 square foot pole barn. And Ronnie Bruner, God bless him, he's gone now, but Ronnie came down. He said, "Huey," because he lived in Dayton, which wasn't far. He said, "I need some place to work on my boat. Can I rent a spot from your shop?" "Sure, no problem." He had a 280 called Bo's Ghost, I think, or something, some tool company. But anyways,
Shopsmith, wasn't it?
O'Shea drove it.
Shopsmith.
Shopsmith, that's right. And they won a lot of races with the 280. And so I go up and get the new Stodiker, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh my God. And John says, "What's the matter?" "Oh, nothing." So I'd already paid for it, so I'm dragging it home. I get it home. And here, when John built it, he put a real long cowling on it. And to me, it was ugly. I pulled it in the shop, or I pulled it down there, and Ronnie came down, and because he'd been talking about Grand Prix. So, make a long story short, Ronnie said, "This thing is awesome. I love this boat. Why don't you sell it to me, Huey?" Okay. So I sold it to him, and the rest is history. He won the HRL that year, or the ACHA. No, that was just a regular Canadian.
There we go. I got that one.
They won a lot of things, and they had a good time with it. And so I got thinking about it. I said, I can't sit around here. So, "John, I need another boat." So I don't know how many of the boats this was, but this time. But John built me a boat, and I said, "Make me a short cowling." And by that time, everybody knew why I sold the other boat. So here he goes, and we had, I got us, who was it? John, somebody at Detroit, one of the Detroit guys, one of the organizers of Detroit. He says, "Huey, Big Boy's looking for a sponsor." Oh, great. So I went up there and talked to them, made a deal with them, painted their colors. They got us everything. And the first race was in Detroit. And I got Mark Tate to drive it. And so the first heat, Mark went out, and I've got a picture. He hit the gas on that thing. And of course, you know direct drive, Brandon. Boy, he just literally submarined the boat. It looked like, what's that guy, Part the Waters in the movie, the Ten Commandments. Yeah. And that's what it looked like. But it popped back up. And that thing was fast. I'm telling you, he ran with Ronnie down the straightaway or Bo, and just the boat was fast. But we had a lot of little trouble with it. But took it to Valleyfield, and Mark in the first heat he ran 3 miles an hour over the Valleyfield record. And but it wasn't a GP record, but it was a Valleyfield record. And so everybody was this was the hottest boat we've ever seen. Because not only it ran down the straightaway, but it could turn. So with the second heat, they go out, and Mark goes in the first turn, and the prop broke. Well, Mark didn't know what it was, but he felt a vibration the way he's running down the backstretch. And as he was running, the whole transom blew off. So now I'm really bummed out. So I had everybody, put the word out, this boat's for sale, you can get a deal. So I sold the boat that day. And who was it? Oh shoot. He gave me a t-shirt. I forget who it was. I'll remember it, but like I say, I forget a lot. But I sold that boat, and that took care of the 90s, I think. Yeah, that took care of the 90s.
All right, I'm finally born.
I still got 9 years.
You still got another 10 years there, bud.
Well, I asked on the comments on Facebook what did everyone want to hear. They said, we want to hear 50% past and 50% future. No, we just about have been an hour.
That's why I said we might go into a part 2, because there's a lot of the stories we'll want to bring up. Like, obviously you had Andrew and Mark drive.
Yeah, have I?
Nah, not yet. We love it, but I just don't want to do too much. We need it. You've been holding a lot of viewers here, so we're gonna have to have you back on to keep our numbers up.
Yeah, we'll give you two episodes.
But we still got about a half hour. You're good.
Right. I might have left a boat or two off, but 94, Mike Weber called me, and he said, hey, Huey, that's Steve Balser up here in Michigan builds a pretty nice boat. He said, I think he'll give you a deal if you buy him a Grand Prix from him. And of course, by then, I didn't have any money, so I bought a new Grand Prix boat with Mike. We set it up and everything, and we go to Decatur. They had their first Grand Prix race there. And Mike goes out, and I was talking to Steve, and I said, we're all talking around there, and we ran a heat race, and it looked pretty good. I said, well, Steve, if this thing wins the race, the final, I said, I'll give you $1,000. Well, Mike goes out there, nails the start, wins the race, cost me an extra $1,000. But then I was a rep for Crane Cams at the time, and I called on Summit Racing. Well, I got them to, this is before the boat finished, but I got them to sponsor the boat. And that's one thing I like to bring up, the sponsors. I've had the best sponsors, beside Orange Crush, the Steeler, Tom Snyder and Snyder's machine. He was probably my best sponsor. Tom did us a hell of a job, and he just loved boat racing. In fact, up until last year, he put quite a bit of money in the Tonawanda HRL GP race. He was great for the sport. We miss Tom. And then, of course, now Northeast Machine, Donnie builds her motors and he sponsors the boat. So, but that's what I wanted to say about that, our sponsors. So, where was I, guys? So 94. We ran the boat. We did okay, but we sold it. And then at the time, John Theoret had this brand new Jamie Alt boat. And this, in fact...
The Denash?
I'm sorry?
Was it the Denash?
No, that was Stodiker.
Okay, so it was you're talking about the casino?
Built the first Jamie Grand Prix boat. Boy, that boat just hauled ass. Well, that's the other thing with Mike. We went to Littleton, New Hampshire. They got the race back on the Grand Prix race. And I believe it was a heat race. And Mike was in there with John. And nobody could touch John at the time. And Mike made a start and beat him. Oh, we were really excited. The problem racing with John, the only way we could beat him, we would break. I mean, the boats just couldn't handle, the Stonikers just couldn't handle it. And we all got blown away, so I quit. I think it was 94. I quit racing. Mike Andrews quit racing. So in 2008, I'm sitting there, and Mike went on his way with he won the title in 1990, and Mike did a hell of a job in his own boat. And so in 2008, I'm sitting at the phone, and I get a phone call from Ronnie O'Neill, still my best friend in Cannon Valley Field. Ron says to me, Huey, I got a deal. We're doing a new deal, and how would you like to go Grand Prix racing again? No, I don't want to do that. Too much money. And he said, how about if we gave you a boat? Wait a minute, you want to give me a Grand Prix boat? Yeah, Bert Henderson down the way is going to build us a bunch of boats, probably 7, 8, 9 of them to get the sport going again in Valleyfield. And, now you got to provide the motor, the trailer, and the hauler and all that, but, it's up to you. He says, let me call you back. So I called Mike right away. Mike, I got a deal for you. And I told him, this was Friday night, late. And he said, what's going on? I said, and I told him what Ron said. We got a new boat, we can get it. He said, Huey, I got kids now. I won my title in 1990. And I haven't been racing for years. And he said, no, I'd love to do it, but I can't do it. Hey, that's great, okay. So I went to bed. Now my head's spinning because here I got this brand new boat sitting out there. What are we going to do? So it must have been 7 o'clock in the morning. Ring, 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 get a phone. Newport, you, and he called me a couple of names. It was Mike. I said, what's going on? I haven't slept all night. I'm in. I'm ready to go racing. So we called Tommy Baker, which he wasn't going to drive it, and Todd Resch, and who was it? I got a couple of people. We all put in, I don't know, $5,000, $10,000 each. And here we go. The first year, 2008. Oh, Mike did say, I'm in, but I get to call the driver. I said, okay. So Mike says, I want Patrick Hayworth. Well, now I didn't know Patrick at the time, didn't know anything about him. But if that's what it took to get Mike, we wanted Patrick Hayworth. So we go out there, and the boat's a rocket ship, but we kept on having engine problems. And so we went through the year, and didn't do too good. I don't think we might have won a heat race or two. But in 2009, back then, Bert Henderson and Jeff Richards had the hot setup. They had a brand new Henderson boat, and they would have won Valleyfield, but I think the
Wing broke.
Yeah, the cable broke. Is that what happened?
His wing broke, I think, and he couldn't keep it on the water.
And but they didn't have the money to campaign the boat, so I think Jeff or Bert or somebody, one of them called me up, but it was a free boat. So we sat down and made a deal, and Bert said, well, I'd like to drive it if you're going to, I said, that's great, because what better person to have a boat driver than the boat builder, and so we painted it black. I think, we called that the Steeler. And then I got Mike Monahan, old backup Mike.
Bob's big boy.
No, wait a minute, I'll take that back. I got Jeff to drive the Crush. And here we go again. Well, these guys Bert started kicking butt and really running good, 2009. And we tried some different ignition, and we tried a good ignition, but it worked so good that Valleyfield, what's the word? I can't think of the word.
Lawed it.
Lawed it.
Yep.
And they did that a couple times. A couple of years later, about 14 or 15, they we put headers on the boat. And all these blown guys, engine boats, said, you guys are crazy, you're losing horsepower. But it did give us some more torque. Well, Valleyfield outlawed those too. But from 2009 and on, I'll tell you, Bert and Jeff got out of the boat about halfway through, and He said, you know, I'm just not competitive. I'm getting older. The kids are growing up, and so we got Mike Monahan to drive it. And Mike did good. We never won with Mike, but we were always up there in the top 2 or 3. But Bert was just kicking butt. And then you got this young kid, Brandon somebody. He's always like a gnat. Get back, get back, get back. And I'll have to say that 2014, to me, was the best race ever in Grand Prix. And probably I'd say 75% of the people, of the race fans. And we went out there, and Brandon got the inside, and we were we next to you? I think we were next to you.
I think, yeah, lane 1 and 2.
And I listened to that video. I probably listened to it 20 times because the Frenchmen that were doing the announcer, they just, now it's Brandon Kennedy, now it's Henderson. They're going coat, I think it's coat to coat.
Coat to coat, yep.
It's Kennedy, it's Brandon, no, it's Kennedy, no, it's Brandon. I counted the times, I think there was like almost 20 times that you guys changed a winner, first place. And to this day, Scott Cropfield still says that I think you hooked it the second turn coming off I call the 4th turn. And he said, oh, if Brandon hadn't hooked it, he would have beat you. But anyway, they came down, and it was literally, what do you call
Inches.
it? Yeah.
Inches or feet, maybe a foot. It was tight.
And the announcers are going, photo finish, photo finish, photo finish. And then a long time waiting, I guess they looked at the thing and it said, Bert Henderson, Bert Henderson. But to this day, Brandon, that's got to be, and we're going to talk about it more now, but you guys and your dad, you rock, because you were our competition. And up until 2 years ago, now you've been kicking our ass, but
So it took us a long time to get to this position. So I chased that boat way too many times, and I'd have to drive into the corner about 30% harder than Bert just to catch up, make up the ground because you were making too much horsepower back then.
I mean, Bert would come off the corner and pull you down the straightaway, down the backstretch, and Bert let off, and you go flying by him in the corner.
Yep.
You were going so fast, you slowed down, and he'd make up for it. Coming on, he'd catch you down the front straight away. And everybody that I ever talked to has watched that, and that's got to be the greatest there.
Yeah, it's the only loss in my career that I'm okay with.
Oh my God.
It was just one of those memorable moments. And yeah, lap 1, I think Bert hooked it into my tail, and then lap 2, I hooked it. So then we were deck to deck the rest of the race. And back then we weren't allowed to bear out like we are. Well, we're up until this year when they started calling it again. So I stayed right on them buoys.
There was one year where you and I were tied going into the final, I think, in HRL points.
Yep.
And whoever won the final would have won the championship.
Yeah, and both of us as drivers did knucklehead things. Jimmy cut the course, so he had a penalty, and then I somehow spun out. So, so neither one of us wanted to win, apparently.
Jimmy drove for us, and Bert in 2000 and what was it, 19?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, I think 2019.
Yeah, that's when it was, I think.
Bert wanted to go unlimited racing, which I don't blame him. Everybody wants to. And so we got Jimmy King. And Jimmy won the championship for us and won Valley Field for us. Mm-hmm. And but that was a great race back in races the whole time was you guys. But then 2 years ago, I have to say in 2018, or maybe it was 17, the Kiwis, Warwick came by and I met Warwick, they're really great people, and I said, you ought to get one of these boats. He said, I don't know. I said, well, maybe between you and us, we can talk to HRL into giving you a boat. Excuse me. So we did. I forget the fellow's name, the young fellow Frenchman, but he had the boat before, which was, I think was your old boat and my old boat, or my old boat to start with. And so we got the boat for the Kiwis, and Warwick, the father, said, "What do we do now, Huey?" I said, "Well, there's only one family, people that can get this boat rigged and get it done right, and that's Joe Sovey and his dad." And so off we go to the Sovies. Poor Joe didn't know what he's getting into. I built him a motor, and Joe was going, and Joe and his dad, they worked their butts off. They painted the boat, they rigged it, they did everything, and I have to give them credit. Well, they go out, and we had trouble that year at 18, and but I don't think he won a race, but he was right up there running with you, and so in the final, Valleyfield final, here they come down the race. Well, he got a bad start, but he ran everybody down. This is Jack, excuse me. Jack ran everybody down, and it was really cute because Joe went and I think he ordered 200 little New Zealand flags, and they gave them out to all the kids in the stands. And they were all waving them for Jack, and I forget his name, but they had a real good tuner too. And so here they come, and one by one, Jack ran everybody down, and he won the race. But he didn't win. They looked at the camera, and I swear it wasn't a foot that they won. So that hooked them. And to this day, God bless them, and they keep coming back because you know as well as I do, and you've done it, what, 3-4 times?
4, yeah.
Yeah, if you haven't won Valleyfield, and I keep telling all these inboard racers, if you haven't done Valleyfield, pardon my shit, you ain't done shit. You can't describe Valleyfield racing to anybody. You have to be there. It's just the whole thing, the French, the flavor, the food, and you know, you're standing there alongside the fence, and those boats are coming, I'd say 20 feet away from you, you know, and it's just great. And the Kiwis, God bless them, they built new boats, and they keep trying, but you and me keep blowing them away. And every year, Warren comes up to me, "Huey Newport, we're gonna beat your ass this year." And they're coming back next year, and I told everybody I had a little rumor, but it's really not a rumor. Bert's building them a brand new boat, and they've got a boat builder, and I forget his name, but Jamie's worked with him down in Kiwi Land, New Zealand, and the guy is really sharp. And now they're running the E.C. Griffin Cup in Australia this weekend, but next weekend I think they're all coming up here, and they plan to have that boat ready for Brockville, that brand new boat. Nice. So, and I'm going to get on them because they're going to come to me and try to get us again, you know. But we've had a really good luck, and then come the start of after Jimmy King, we said, who are we going to get to drive this boat? Well, I got a partner, and that's another story. But we called what do we call it? GPA?
Hydrofish.
Hydrofish, green. Nobody wanted it green, but the kids loved it. Yep. Well, we got it. No, with the Steeler, I'm sorry, the 2022, we got Andrew in the boat. And knock on wood, we won everything. I think we won almost every race, and Valleyfield again, and the championship. And Andrew just, you know, I mean, probably Andrew and you, and I'm not saying it just because you're sitting there, but you're probably the best two drivers, you know. And all the Mike Grandel tells me, "Oh, Newport, if you didn't have Andrew, he's good for 4 or 5 boat lengths and 100 horsepower." And, but anyways, we won in 22 and 23. We got the Hydrofish, and we went to Guntersville. and we had to add a new driver. Or we had to have a different driver because Andrew had a deal. Oh, while I'm talking about the Tates, one thing was really neat. Beside Andrew, we had his dad driving for me, and his grandpa Joe drove for me in the old days.
Wow. I didn't know all three of them.
That's the first time I think we had beside a father, the son, the grandpa. We had a great time with the Tates. And but anyways, so we go to Gunnersville, and we put Bobby's never been in the boat, so they made him start on the outside, and they did survey it for a record course, and I think the record a mile and a quarter is like what was it, like 118, Brandon, something
Yeah,
like.
yeah, 118.
Well, anyways, he goes out there in the first heat, and I forget who he's running against, but he starts on the outside, and darn if he doesn't run, wins the heat and runs 124, way over the record. And we're like, oh my God. Well, they came up to us and, Huey, good news, bad news. Yeah, you set the record, but because APBA, the assigned lanes aren't in the rule book, we can't give you the record. So, but then we went up to Madison the next weekend, and Andrew, I think he blew his boat over, or he tore it up. He couldn't.
Yeah, he blew it over in Gunnersville.
So he got in the hydrofish, and he won there. So, but since then,
Yeah, you guys won everything that year up until Tonawanda, and do you remember who beat you there? He's up in the other corner. It wasn't me that weekend. It was Bobby. He got the first win for TKO.
that's true. So
I get lucky once in a while.
Yeah, the first win to break that boat's cherry. So somebody had to do it, and now it's been on a roll since.
well, I will say, and I'm sure everybody out there, all the drivers and the owners will agree. I think the catalyst and the thing of is our team. I've had most of my teammates, Jeff Scott, Big Mike Gebline, Jimmy, his son does the radios, Tommy Moss, Ryan, Ken McLeod, Mark Butler. Those guys they've been with me. Most of them have been with me for 10 years. And I think it was at Cambridge a couple of years ago. We blew the motor, and at Valleyfield this past year, we blew the motor, and it takes them 38 minutes to change that motor and fire it back up. And I think it takes more cleaning the engine in the bay than it does changing the motor,
Yep, motor's ready to go in.
I'll tell you what, I'll be honest with you, and without the sponsors and the drivers and this team is, I got to tell you, this past weekend on the Wild one, Donnie built 2 brand new motors, and they put them both in the boat, fired them up, made sure everything right, put new shaft, we did everything. They completely redid the boat, and we're coming after you.
There you go. Bring it on.
They're fired up, and they just felt that we had to have Andrew. So that's probably the reason why we're only going to run three races, because Andrew's got a contract with his unlimited team that he can't drive the unlimited and the Grand Prix boat. Otherwise, we'd be at the unlimited races. But the team's really fired up, probably the most fired up I've heard in years, and they're just, I don't know, you know yourself, it's really hard getting up in that mountain and staying on top of that mountain. And we haven't been on the top of the mountain for a couple of years. And they know it, everybody knows it, but I think to tell you our dominance of Valleyfield, I've won Valleyfield 9 times, the Grand Prix final, and Mark Perrier is our historian, you might say.
Yeah, he is.
He always goes across the river and sits in that stands. For years, they go over there, and they all bet on the Grand Prix races. And he said they all bet. There's only one boat they can't bet on. That's the Steeler. Nobody can take the Steeler. So, But now, you got any questions up to now? Because I like to get to the future.
Well, that's
Yeah,
good. That's
yeah. I think that was good for rolling in. I think if you're good with the Huey, we'll do another episode because there's a lot more of the stories that I want to tie into, and I think the guys will come up with some ideals. Do a whole nother episode and talk about like the families that have raced for you. You mentioned
Right.
Bobby and Jimmy, and then the Tates. So we'll get to that on the next episode. Everyone, make sure you like and subscribe to Chasin Tails. We'll let you know when
I
we can
hope
get
we
caught up with Huey again. But let's get into the future. What are your
people listening in.
Yeah, I think we peaked at 80, and I think that's the highest we've ever had. You beat you beat Vilwalk's numbers.
Well, that's good. So that's why I wanted to get them. But the one thing is, I know a lot of people, not a lot, but a lot of us owners knew that Jack was building a new boat, and I hope I don't give it away, but they all want to know where Jack is and where his boat, and all the questions, not all the questions, but all the comments was Jack has got. They sent his boat back down to New Zealand, and they said, wait a minute, how's Jack going to be at the race if he doesn't have a boat? So, I would say between, Brody's got his boat running good with Bobby running. You guys are I think we can stay with you a little bit on the straightaway, but you hit that corner, and whatever you did to that boat when you built it or rebuild it or reconstructed it, I guess, you did a hell of a job, and I give you get all the credit. And your dad and I go way back, and it's been a lot of fun racing with you because we might cuss each other. Oh, I got to tell you one story about your dad. He might get mad, but we
He's
were in
got the
Tonawanda.
Tonawanda.
I know, I know
We
it's
were
like
in
this is.
Tonawanda, and we didn't have many boats there, so we all kind of got together for a heat. I think it was a heat race, and we all agreed that we're going to put a show on. So I'm up in the sponsor, up in Tom Snyder's tent, and watching the race. And here they all go out, warm up, and they come down straight. Well, Bert hit the first corner, and he takes off, and he wins the heat. Your dad came in that tent, and I won't say exactly what he said. Huey, don't you ever ask me to put a show on again. And I felt bad because I didn't know, none of us, the team or nobody, knew that Bert was going to do this. And Bert says, Huey, I have no excuse. I don't know, I guess the racing in me and the driver, I'm not going to say I forgot it, but I don't know. I took off. It was
Yeah,
still a good race.
Dad was placed on probation by HRL after that one. He had to mind his P's and Q's for a bit.
I'll tell you, and I felt bad for George and you because that wasn't a deal,
Yeah.
So, but anyways, I think we have a good bunch, and I know a lot of people are complaining, or not a lot, but several people said, Huey, you can't knock the class, the East and the West, on Facebook. And I said, well, and you and I have talked about this for years. The problem is, I know a lot of people, we've got about 4 or 5 teams that can go back and forth. But we got about 6 or 8 teams that just, the price of gas now, you're talking $4,000 or $5,000 just for, if you have a diesel to run out there. I mean, it's what, 6,000 or
Yeah.
5,000 miles. And we've got to get these race sites together. And the problem is, Madison, they have it every July 4th. Brockville has it their July 4th. Now, what really made us mad, and I'll say this, and I hope Tonawanda Bunch doesn't get too mad at me, but Donnie, my sponsor, an engine builder, he called HRL and he got them to change the date from the first weekend in August to the second weekend. That way, the first weekend, Andrew's going to be driving out in Seattle, I think. So, but the second weekend it was open. So we're all excited, because now he can drive it at the sponsor's race, you might say. And somewhere, somebody in the club, we're not changing the date, typical. Well, not only did they lose us as a boat, now we still might go, but that's up to Andrew. If he can get us a driver who or the team can, I guess that's one reason why my team's a little different. We're all Democrats, and I let all the guys vote over the years. We always let the guys vote. And, that's, you know, I don't know, good or bad, but I don't pay them anything. And they're just one hell of a team. So that's why I let them decide, and that's why I decided, Huey, we're not going to race this year unless Andrew can sit in that boat. And that's basically, that's what we've decided. But getting back to this East-West, the East had it made for years there. Now the West, they've passed us. They've bought another new boat, not a new boat, but a champion boat out there. And the only problem with them is, I'd say 20% of their owners can afford to go back and forth, and 80% can't. Back east, we got 80% of our, or I don't know, 40, whatever it figures out. Yeah. I've got a few owners that can, and it makes a big difference. And it's going to be like you and me and your dad and a couple of those old guys that got to sit down and see what, even with HRL, we've got, I think it's 21 wet boats that can go racing. And it just makes me so mad that we can't get everybody together, because what a hell of a show,
Yeah. And we've had those conversations a lot on this podcast, is that even for APBA Limited, if you split the country, because what you're doing now is, we were just on that conference call with GPA, and you're asking some of the new teams like Harnack, and I forget the other one's name, that have the 14 now, you're kind of pressuring them to come east to Madison. That's a huge expense for them. Where if they built essentially a mini HRL, where it's a nucleus of races that are pretty close, it'd be a great series. And then they don't have that pressure to come out east. And maybe one year they'll be like, hey, I really want to go to Madison. I want to go to Valleyfield. And they'll come east. And then we try to find somewhere, which prime location we've talked about is Decatur, that's your east-west showdown. And you can build it up. Right now it's kind of like bickering, like, oh, HRL boats are faster, GPA is faster, but it's not straight up competition, because you always have that excuse where if you just made one race, it can be built up to this big mega thing, but getting people to listen, that's the second thing.
Another boat, a new boat that we're going to see, not a new boat, but Daniel Mercier and Jocelyn Marcoux. Daniel he runs in the NHRA Top Fuel. And he's always qualifying, and he's made it to a couple of rounds already, and they're doing a hell of a job. And they're going to be out there this year. And we've got so many good boats, and we got to split them up, And the one good thing we had a couple of years ago was in Owensboro, but I don't know. I guess I've heard of some things about the promoter, but I mean that was more or less as close to the middle of the country as we gotten. And we had, I think, we have about 5 or 6 West Coast boats.
Yeah, I think we had like 14 there that weekend.
Yeah, it was a good turnout.
But back in the day, we had I think 3 or 4 7-liter step up. But in Valleyfield, when I was the GP chairman, we had 28 GP boats make the start, and it was amazing. But the good thing about us, we've had some good deck-to-deck races with our GP boats, but we need new. What's happening now is, Brandon, we're running so much faster, and of course we're taxing our motors and our boats, and they're standing together so much better. I'd say 80% better than they were 15 years ago.
Yeah,
that makes a big difference. But you got these boys next to you, they're chopping the bit on. In fact, Bobby Weaver had you set up for possibly if we couldn't get, we had that one boat in Gunnersville with, I wanted Bobby, and they picked Tommy Thompson. So that's another story. That's the rest of the story. But getting back to, I think if our fans will stick with us, we're gonna take care of this. We're gonna do this thing. I don't know how or why. I can't put much money into it because my wife and I are both on Social Security, and thank God she had a great 401k. I had a partner with my race hauler, and this was a couple of years ago, and he took the truck to a truck place and says, here, do this, do this, do this, do this. And I didn't know it, and had to repossess the boat and the truck, and he says, well, you got to go to this truck place and get the truck. So I called the guy up in North Carolina. He said, well, Huey, I got $34,000, or I think $38,000 in it, and I want to put it up for auction. But the title was in my name, so I'm stuck with it. So my wife was listening to me. He says, Huey, no. No, I said, honey, you got it. I made a deal with a guy for $34,000. Nope. I said, okay, well, I guess I'll be hanging around all summer. What? I said, yeah. I said, if I don't go to the races, I'm going to be here all summer. Phone, hello, bank, transfer 34,000. So, in fact, I met her. I took her to the first boat race in Miami Marine Stadium, and that's the year that Davy Sutton got killed. And they had a stationary crane there, and he blew the boat over a 280. His dad built the boat, I think, and they couldn't find it. They got the boat, but they couldn't find David. And so they hauled the boat in and put it under the crane. And I don't know if they turned it over, but anyways, when they lifted the boat up, and his family was there, and here he was hanging dead on his parachute. Oh my God, that was my wife. She's, oh, this is a nice sport, you know.
Yeah.
And but anyways, I'm looking at my watch. I think we're out of time, and I've got a lot more to talk about. You know that. But
Well, we'll have episode 2 with you. Don't worry, we're gonna have you back on another episode.
I think, like I say again, for our race fans, our GP race fans, we're coming back. Maybe not this year, but we're going to have a lot of good boats. And I think they're going to have 9 or 10 boats, GPs at Madison. And we're probably going to have, hopefully, 12, 14 boats in Valleyfield. So bear with us. We've got new boats coming. I got a couple of things I can't even tell you that they come about. Well, you know, but being 88 this year, I don't know how much longer, but I feel good. I feel right. And I'd love to hang around those young guys, those teammates. They make me feel young. So they won't let me do anything anymore. But hey, it's been fun, and I love the guys to death, and I love you guys, and I like to see these young guys next to you get in a boat, because I know even though Bobby ran into us in Tonawanda, actually, no, I won't say it knocked you out of the points thing, but it did.
Yeah.
But guys, thanks for having me on, and I hope we get a good audience, and I've got a lot more to talk about, and a couple more things that everybody told me, well, you can't talk about that. So a couple other little things we had, and it's been great. All these boats I've had, and we've had, oh, I got to tell you one more quick story. So after Mike and I won the 81 Nationals, we're all fired up. Well, the kilo run, the straightaway record for 7 liters was 140. So Mike and I are hanging around. Our heads are big as the helmets, you know, and oh, hell, we can run 100 more than 140. So let's go run the kilo. Okay. So we load up, Mike and I, and that's Mike Endries. And we get over there, and the wind comes up a little bit, it goes out, and obviously you can't run a cab over with a wind. So, but we still had the Orange Crush logo. We had the big Orange Crush flag. So we wanted to go, we wanted to race. So Mike says, I'll tell you what, Huey, here's what we'll do. You go down there, I'll go down, I'll take the boat down where they warm up and all that, and I'll run in circles, and you put the Orange Crush flag out. And as long as that flag is down, it's not flag or flowing, he said, I'll know to come. Okay. So Mike goes down, and he's running around, and it's not, and he looks, and the flag's not going. Well, here he comes. Just about the time he got to the flag comes out. We're like, oh shit. Well, they clocked him at 144, I think, and over he goes. We're like, oh my God. So we looked at the boat's sitting there right side up, and Mike is out of it. And I'm like, hey, there's nothing wrong with the boat. And I turned around, and Warren Wilhelm, my partner at the time, said, look again, Huey. And I looked out, and there, all you see is two pickle forks. Well, it knocked the transom out. So they get the boat in, and Mike comes in on the rescue boat, and he comes over. Mike, are you okay? We're all concerned. He says, yeah, I guess I'm okay. And we all burst out laughing. He says, what's so funny? Well, when he went out, his helmet hit the bridge of his nose, and his whole face swelled up, and he looks like a Chinaman. Oh my God, we just cracked up. And so anyways, we took the boat back to Stodicker's, got it fixed. So here we come back in 81. Mike goes out there, and he's running around, warming up. He starts coming down the straightaway. He slows up. So he comes back into the pits and says, what? Mike, what's the matter? Huey, if you want the freaking record, you get in the damn boat and go race it. That was our straightaway record. So, but other than that, guys, like I said, I keep thinking of things to tell you, and I got a lot more stories. We had so much fun out there over the 55 or 54 years. And the one thing, the people, I have made more friends, and we get out there, we race like hell and cuss each other in the race, and you come back in, and of course we always had the big beer, you had the beer cooler. We always had more friends because everybody come to the crush truck and get beer, But let's leave it at that. I think we had some fun. I hope I answered most of the people's questions. Oh, and the other thing is, in 87, Jimmy King won in the Orange Crush. But I quit racing in 86, and I gave Jimmy the Crush sponsorship. So that's why he had the Crush vote in 87. That's to answer a couple questions.
Okay.
So that's about it, guys. Thanks for having me.
We appreciate you coming on, and we'll definitely schedule out a second interview probably soon, because as soon as we get racing, we're into the recaps and things like that. So
Sure.
We'll definitely have you back on here in the next couple weeks, and definitely fans, if you have comments, questions, anything he brought up or things you want to know about, drop them on the Steeler Racing page or on Chasin Tails, and we'll be sure to ask on the next episode. But we appreciate you coming on, Huey. Thank you.
Yep,
Thanks, guys. Good talking to you.
Great stories, bud. Thank you.
All right, boys. I didn't end the live. We got any closing thoughts before I end the live?
I mean, just listen to that. I don't think I've ever said this on my life, but it makes me want to go 7-liter racing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like just listen to like the 7-liter heyday. It just sounds like overgrown 5 liters just out there racing deck to deck.
Yeah. I think that's what I know I've bashed about the Pro Hydro thing, but
yeah.
I just think timing was off. And when you have the GPs and obviously it's hurting us, but we're coming back. I think in the next 2 years, whether it's HRL GP or GP East, whatever the heck you want to call it, is going to be crazy competitive and fast boats. But the only thing I would say for HRL's point with the Pro Hydros is they're not following the recipe that has worked for the 2.5s, the 350s, the GPs in the 7 liters back in the day. Call up John Staldacker. He's got Drew. Drew will probably build 10 Staldackers. We'll just bring them back.
If I was going to drive 7-liter or a Pro V, whatever you want to call it, I'd get a Staldacker.
Yeah.
And if I didn't have what brand new one built, I'd call up Calvin and be like, "Hey,
Calvin's
bud,
is still the fastest."
Be like, "Hey, let's put a decel on this thing. Let's go run this thing in HRL, and let's go kick everyone's ass." Because those boats ride so perfect. I mean, not even a wing, and it's like
that's someone we really need to work on getting on. Is John. Even if we got to go to his house and set up, do a remote thing. The amount of things he did. And all the things he's done, off the wall. I mean, obviously, look at the spider boats like Tommy Thompson had, and they're so
Yeah.
fast. But then he built his own box trailer for his race car. He had this all custom D Sport. Now he's doing. I think he's got like an electric boat or something like that out on the lake.
I want to bring this up. I don't know if Ray Lynn built it or was it a John boat, but Staldecker boat. But Ray Lynn had a spider boat back in the 80s, maybe.
It's true.
So I don't know if it was a Staldecker or did Ray build it?
It might have been a Blide, Lynn. I'll have to ask.
We have to find
back
out
with an
because
answer.
if so, that might have been the first spider boat, but just not a Staldecker.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But I mean, it kind of goes to like what Huey was saying, the way the racing has went over the years and like the advancements. And it's kind of wild that the advancements have always come in the corners. Staudackers outturn the Lauterbachs. The Alds outturn the Staudackers.
Yeah.
So it's really cool. And I think that's what makes racing the best is when you have turns like we always talk about. Cambridge, a Valleyfield, big first turn, narrow second turn.
Yeah,
Which it's opposite in Cambridge. But maybe, what if we ran backwards?
You mean
Right-hand turns. Oh, man. Dude, our viewers
They started
dropped
racing
when he
high
left.
roads in Europe with
right?
Put skid fins on the right side.
Yeah, we'd have to.
But you'd have to go to left hand. You'd have to go to
We'd have to
opposite
change
rotation
propellers and
props
everything.
because
It'd be awesome.
It wouldn't allow you to turn.
Yeah, but it'd be fun.
It'd be fun, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it.
The offshore boats did a long course, short course thing. I think
Yeah,
that'd
I
be
feel like it
fun to
worked
play
really well,
with.
too.
Yeah.
I think we definitely have to have Huey back. That guy is his stories and
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed that, and hopefully our fans
Dude,
did
I hope
too.
I can remember half as much shit from my racing career as that.
Buddy, he kept saying, "What year were we on?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm lost."
he knows-
I was
he-
just into the story.
he knows more from year to year than I know from decade to decade. The last 2 decades I've been
Yeah,
racing.
no
Like,
doubt.
I don't. Like I can tell you, I won here and there. I don't remember everything.
It's cool, but I want to get into more of the stories, more asking him questions. Like we talked about, he had 3. I didn't realize it was 3 generations of Tate drive for him, and then Bobby King, Jimmy King, things like that. Like,
Yep.
he's had all these different people with him, and then I know he's told me some other stories off the record that we need to bring on the record. That'd be pretty good for our fans. So we got through the bulk of the history. Now we'll move on to the fun stuff.
Yeah, and that fun stuff, and also I want to get like what's he think that we need to do for not just GP but boat racing as a whole to move forward, because that guy's been around for decades, so he probably has some pretty good opinions that I think everyone would probably need to hear. So
He's seen a couple ebbs and flows, throughout the sports had its up and down, especially with
Yeah.
GP. I mean, he's kind of went through all of it with GP.
yeah. So
Yeah. So that's
All
cool.
right. I
So
think
yeah,
that's,
just follow our page. We talked about maybe taking next week off, but we'll see what we got going on.
I mean,
We're trying to
I
put out-
say we're taking next week off unless Huey wants to come back on.
yeah, we could just dial
Huey
it back, but
wants
man,
to-
we gotta make people wait.
Gotta make people
We don't
wait.
want to flood it. But yeah, we're trying to put out a lot of content here. Kyle's been knocking it out of the park with these one-on-one interviews going on our YouTube page. We'll have another one. I think it's on YouTube now, but we'll post it on Facebook tomorrow. Just trying to do a lot more things. We got Edgewood coming up in a little bit of probably less than a month. I guess it's a month right now. Testing here in a couple weeks in Caesars Creek. So a lot of good things about to happen in boat racing, and we're excited for it. But that was episode, I think, 82, 83. 83. Yeah, I got 82 in the description, but hey,
Well, wait, how old's Huey?
88.
Oh,
He's
so
turning
we
88,
haven't-
I think he said.
Man, we haven't
Yeah.
caught up to him yet.
Not yet. Our episodes aren't even there yet. But anyway, folks, we appreciate you watching. We'll see you next time.